AI is such a vague thing anymore that, like, there are AI agents. Now we have certain large models that are doing other things, and you have models that are meant for a lot of autonomous vehicles, and robotics are getting in the mix, and you can create entire websites and entire softwares. Like, again, you overwhelm. So slowing back, helping them on their, it's so weird for us to be like, what's your journey on AI? But it is like everyone's got a freaking journey now. And it's important in the communication aspect of this, not to overwhelm with information, but not to underwhelm too.
Welcome back to the Culture Base Podcast. I'm Dustin. He's Blake. We are the Culture Base, episode 112. Today we're talking about the two letters that are changing our world right now. An A with an I after it. AI in your workplace is here, whether you're ready or not. So what do we do about it from a cultural standpoint? We're going to hit that in today's conversation. But before we do, I want to remind you at the Culture Base, we're here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop scalable teams to get them there. If you'd like more information about how we can help you do just that and all the really cool things that we're coming out with at the Culture Base, go to the Culture Base. That's BASE.com. And special shout out before we get into this, because the day this releases, Blake, we are actually in Madison, Wisconsin at CultureCon. We're super pumped to be there. So if you're listening to this because you met one of us or me at CultureCon in Madison, Wisconsin, so glad that you're here. Hope you had a great time at the conference, and we'd love to chat with you. Go on over to theculturebase.com for that. All right, Blake, let's get into this, because what we're not going to do today, I just want to maybe set the table. What we're not going to do today is have a conversation about strictly technology for technology's sake. Like, everything we do here at the Culture Base is through the culture lens. And so that's what we want to address today is how is this AI boom, right? Just like any other booms that we've seen, and since the dawn of man, like how is that affecting our workplace cultures? And I think just like everything else, like it starts, stops, middle, carries, all of that with leadership. So what are you seeing about like where the leaders are kind of leading or ignoring this charge here? What does that look like for you right now?
Yeah. So I mean, first off, AI is so weird, right? Like, I think it is our level of like trying to understand, almost like when the .com boom happened and everyone was like, where were you on that level? Like, that's where we are today with AI is, it's like you have a really old person who's like, I love technology. And you start going, what do they mean by that? Like, what is it that they actually mean by technology here? And so you start asking them questions and they're like, yeah, I love browsers. And you're like, oh, okay, so maybe not super tech. But then you've got people who are like, technology, I have this device, I've got them linked by doing this, I backlink on this. And you're like, okay, maybe this person has a little, I think that's where we are with AI too, is trying to contextualize people's level of understanding or level of integration. And so this becomes a harder conversation at a certain level, because like software companies, as we're talking about this, your level of engagement in AI is going to be very different than potentially a construction company in AI. And what is the attitude towards AI? What is a team member's perspective towards AI? Is it offensive? Like, there are some people that AI is offensive to them. There are some people that look at what AI does from a pragmatic utilitarian side and say, that's great. And then they say, Then all of a sudden they're listening to a song on Spotify and they're like, man, this slaps. Who is this? And it's AI. And they're like, this is BS. And all of a sudden everything changes. You have graphic designers who hate it. You have graphic designers who love it because it sparks things. AI is weird. Okay. And so the thing I think getting at right there in this whole like leadership discussion is you as a leader have a perspective on AI. Just as I, as a leader, have a perspective on AI, a leader now becomes semi-responsible for a lot more people's perspective of AI. And my point I'm getting to there is it's not so much about being right. It's about understanding where people are.
Yeah.
And if your organization is going to be using AI, and that is just the standard, you've said, I'm leading this organization. I believe this is where we need to go. We're going to use it because if we don't use it, are we going to be left behind? And you have to come to those conclusions. That's not what this is about. But let's say you come up to a standard and you say, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Before you implement, I think you need to get a good pulse on your team. Like just what's everyone's thoughts on AI? What are your beliefs about it? And you're going to have a gamut. Okay. And I'm also not saying, come to your conclusion on AI by democracy. I'm not saying that either. No. Actually, I think you have to be the leader in this.
That's right.
And so a leader is not saying, what does everyone else say? And let's follow that. Okay. We'd still be riding horses. But what a leader does is says, I really believe this is what's best. And so how do I help my team come to conclusions and understandings about this, that it's not necessarily offensive. And so you're going to have to make sure that it isn't. But it's not offensive. It's not trying to steal jobs. It's trying to better us as a team in a certain capacity. And if that's the heart, if that's the case that we're trying to roll with, then you as the leader need to be the one spearheading emotional adoption of AI. Okay. Yeah. And I say emotional adoption because I think it starts there. I think, is it an affront to somebody's job? Then you're going to have to figure out how to have conversations there. Is it, people love using it and they're using it on everything? There might be I think I need to tamper there. Like, it's not about finding pure balance, but it is like, this person's going so hard, they're connecting all of our back-end IT to this thing. And now all of a sudden we've broken 10 firewalls and we're going to be hacked in no time. That maybe a different conversation. But the leader has to come to those decisions and then has to learn how are they handling the emotional adoption of AI.
Yeah, for sure. I do want to just pause for a minute and say, I do think people still ride horses.
No, they're done. Actually,
they're done. Horses are no longer. They're
the Kentucky Derby with the robot last time.
That was the last one.
That was nuts.
That's true. That was a huge conspiracy. If you didn't read about that,
people are going to be looking this up like it's a thing
on Blake's blog. I knew it was rigged. No. It's interesting, Blake. I've been having this conversation, with a lot of business leaders. And one business leader in particular I was talking to said that they were having this discussion as an organization. They were having the discussion about how everybody feels about AI. And we've often talked on the show about how some of the best cultures address elephants in the room. They don't ignore them. They don't try to sweep the elephants under the rug, right? They actually put them in the middle of the room, put chairs all around the elephant and address it right then and there together as a group, right? Mm-hmm. So, yes, I agree with Blake. I think that's step one for sure is you actually have to be willing to have a conversation about it. You actually have to be willing to listen about it. Maybe other people have other perspectives that you don't, leader, right? At the end of the day, though, it's going to fall on you as the leader to make a decision about where your company stands on it. And another thing that we handle on this show all the time is communication is key to culture, right? And so if you're not communicating, if you're not writing down and defining what your AI strategy is, and then what your AI boundaries are, and then also talking about it on a regular basis, then your team will start to define that on their own terms. and it will get completely out of control. It's like the whole, the whole state of Virginia had to take solitaire off of government employees' computers because they were losing them to playing solitaire all day, right? And it's like, okay, it's because they didn't talk about how, like, hey, you shouldn't be playing solitaire at work, right? It was instead, let's just take it away. Mm-hmm. And if you decide as a leader, like, hey, I'm just going to block all these AI sites, you're stifling a lot of innovation and a lot of creativity and a lot of ingenuity, forward thinking, and honestly, growth for your company, because AI is here to stay. And maybe you just need to kind of sit in that for a second. I don't know. It has affected every single industry, even in Blake's industry of, electrical contracting. Like, it's affected that too. You're like, well, AI can't go out there and put two wires together, but it still affects it at the end of the day, right? And so what your strategy for your unique company is going to be needs to be written down, defined with boundaries, and it needs to be talked about on a regular basis. It's not a one-time memo that you sent out back in 2003 that nobody remembers, right? Because you've hired new people since then. This AI strategy needs to be a part of your onboarding. We just talked about that last week. It needs to be part of your review process. How are you using it? All that type of stuff, and talk about, this is how we're using it. This is how we're using it. This is how we're using it. So that people understand where it ends and begins. And that's my second point I want to get to today, Blake, is that I think a lot of people, not the leader, well, I should say maybe even some leaders too, are super nervous that AI is going to take their jobs, right? And I think we're in an age of purpose right now. And our society, and I'm trying not to get too macro here, but our society is smacked up against, well, if my purpose isn't pushing this button or moving this box from here to there, then what is my purpose? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? How am I uniquely, like, even I as a business owner have gone, okay, like, what am I okay with allowing AI to do? And where does AI end and I begin, and vice versa? Where's the value prop, right, that I'm bringing to my clients? And so what I want us to understand is that no matter how much AI we decide to use as a company, that there's no amount of it that is going to give or take away purpose from people. That's what leaders do. Leaders in an organization are going to be the one to speak purpose into your people. And I think, yes, you need to have these conversations about AI, but I think the louder conversation that needs to be had right now is speaking purpose over your team members.
That's good, man. That is really good. On the other side, not buying into AI, gosh, I usually would not push AI hard at all. Like, you cannot. Like, I know that sounds like so, like I'm taking a really hard stance on AI here, but this whole like there will be a getting left behind aspect here. There just is. And there is a kindness to your team, I think, of bringing them into that fold of AI. AI is not the savior. That's not what I'm saying here. Nope. But when you hold people outside of this stuff, they may be like, good, I didn't have to learn anything. What kindness is that if they leave your organization? Because they're going to go into one that has AI. Like, it's just going to happen. So they're now going to struggle in that world. Now they're going to struggle not understanding certain aspects. And unless you're homesteading somewhere, then sure, don't worry about AI. But that's not the norm here. And you're on a podcast right now listening to culture and organization. So I'm guessing you're not just homesteading here. So it's going to be there. You've be someone who's showing kindness by bringing them into the fold, whether it be slowly, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with slow here. But yeah, it's here to stay. I think that kind of takes us to the next step here in this too, like just the aspect of the large void we have in communication when we're talking about this. Mm-hmm. And there are so many extremes along this conversation. And the other part that I'm more often guilty of, and as you're bringing this in, maybe if you're leading the AI front on things, maybe don't overwhelm people in this conversation too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you overwhelm with information, you're like, oh, I'm just giving them all the information so they can go. They don't go. Okay. Yeah. What ends up happening is you scare the hell out of them. And then they believe it's the whole haves and have nots. I don't have enough. I won't be able to get there. And so you overburden, like, part of this AI bringing it in and kindness and the emotional side here is legitimately like, hey, this is an LLM. An LLM is just high level. Like, it takes different perspectives, grabs different sources. It's a large language model. And so you input language and out comes something else on the backside. And let's start with that, because AI is such a vague thing anymore that, like, there are AI agents. Now we have certain large models that are doing other things. And you have models that are meant for a lot of autonomous vehicles, and, you know, robotics are getting in the mix, and you can create entire websites and entire softwares. Like, again, you overwhelm. So slowing back, helping them on their, it's so weird for us to be like, what's your journey on AI? But it is like, everyone's got a freaking journey now. And it's important in the communication aspect of this, not to overwhelm with information, but not to underwhelm too. So,
yeah. And anything that we bring into our companies, like whether it be a person or a software or a freaking insurance plan, like all of them, anything that we bring into our companies should support our company's mission. So the way in which you're bringing in AI has to be non-negotiable that it fits into the mission of the organization. If we don't tie it back into what you're trying to do as a company, and it's just well, you know what, AI is here and we've got to figure out a place for it. I don't know. We have the empty storage room over there. Just go put it over there. Bob, you can have that office. You know, like, if we treat it like that, like, then it doesn't fully support it. Then it's just like something that we have to have. Like, we have to have a water cooler, or we have to have these OSHA standards on the wall. Like, that's not what this is. Like, this is not a guideline to be followed just out of obligation. AI in your workplace is to help support what your company's mission is. And I'll say this too, as we transition to our next point, Blake, that anything that we bring in to our culture, anything that we bring in is going to magnify our culture even more. Think about this for a second. We just talked about onboarding in our last episode. You bring in let's say you bring in a new mid-level manager, right, to take over or to help, you know, kind of delegate some of the stuff out or whatever. And after, you know, you're during that onboarding process, you're checking in with them. Hey, how's it going? Yes, but hey, what are you seeing? What are you seeing that maybe I'm not seeing, because you have fresh eyes to this? And they're going to hold up a giant magnifying glass and go, glad you asked. I see A, B, and C. And you're going to go, oh, okay, well, I knew about A, and we're addressing that. B, I had a suspicion, and C, I had no idea. And that's, so anything that we bring in, whether it be a person or a software or a process or any of that stuff, is going to, like, put a magnifying glass on our culture and go, oh, okay. And so, like, I've talked to organizations, like, I've talked to the leaders in organizations where they're all in. They're like, this is how we're using AI. It's very clear. We love it. This is how we're doing it. And then you talk to a mid-level manager and they're just like, I don't know. They're rolling out some new AI thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what? Where's the disconnect? And the disconnect is they don't understand. That mid-level manager doesn't understand how what the leader is rolling out supports the mission of the organization. They just think it's a distraction. Yeah. They just think it's something else. And so we have to constantly come back and not allow our team to write their own narrative of what anything new is here to do. an insurance plan, a software, a tool, and AI is a tool.
Yeah.
It is a tool. It's nothing more. It's nothing more than the next screwdriver of the world.
Yeah.
This is just everybody's using a screwdriver for the first time.
Yeah. That's good, man. It can be vague too when we say like, you need to use AI to support your mission. You need to use AI to support your vision. Like those can be very vague things. And I love the idea of the tool analogy because what we just went from was, not just a screwdriver.
Using my hand to turn this screw.
Not even just a screwdriver. We went to like, it was like the old style screwdrivers that we had. And we went straight to a drill with like 10 different speeds and clutches and all these.
Yeah.
Like that's what's happening here. And the thing I would say about like, it's often vague when we say you need to use AI to support your vision and your mission. Like, throw AI out the door here. Okay. Like just throw it off to the side for a second. Good leaders solve the right problems. They solve the right problems. So how do you bring AI into organization? Don't bring it in if there ain't a problem. Okay. Like what is the problem that is making everyone itch? What is the thing that is not being done or isn't clear? Bring AI in to provide clarity, to provide solution, true solution that everyone knows is a problem. Okay. When you start showing that it's solving problems that are problems, people will buy in. When you solve problems that nobody knew was a problem.
Yeah. Let's throw dirt on the floor so that we can use our Roomba to vacuum it up.
That's right. Exactly. Like that's essentially what's happening there. Yeah. And when you solve the right problems,
see how great it is?
Start buying in. And so early on in AI, I was like, let's go. AI could do this and this. And people were like, oh, okay. And then when people started using AI to solve problems in the organization, I've seen people who had no understanding of AI or technology, like they were screwdriver turners, and now become some of the biggest proponents because they're like, couldn't we just use AI to help with this if we did this and this? And it's like, oh, yeah, like your processes. I know, believe me, your processes are golden. So are mine. And every day I realize that that's not true at all. And every process we touch now, we sit down and we're like, all right, let's value stream map this process. What are all the pieces it touches? All right, now everyone, is this process perfect? And everyone goes, oh no, I see it's not. And we're like, where are the problem spots in this process? Like as you have a visual process drawn out and people are like, this is a problem. And they're circling, this is a problem. This is a problem. Cool. How do we solve that? And they're like, what if we had something that could do this? And guess what? That something that could do this might not exist. But now AI can come up with some, oh yeah, I can build this here. This is what you're looking for. And it's just like so many of our problems tend to be we don't know what we don't know, or we don't know what doesn't exist. And AI helps us get to solution-based problems a lot quicker. And but the bigger picture is don't solve problems that aren't problems, or at least aren't problems in other people's heads, because then they're going to be like, oh, they're just trying to replace us. Okay. Yeah. One thing don't say, okay. Big don't say here. Don't say, I wish I could just replace all my people with AI. Okay. You just created a problem. That was stupid. If you're curious, like, was that smart? It wasn't. It was really dumb. Don't ever say I'm trying to use AI to replace all my people. Okay. Because that's not what you should be trying to do. Okay. Because AI doesn't always think creatively. AI doesn't see all the variables or like that are present. It has to be told all the variables. Yeah. And so don't do that. That's dumb. You're going to create a bigger problem and people aren't going to adopt.
Yeah. And use AI to elevate people, not to remove them. Right. Example, I hired, I don't know, 18 months ago, hired an assistant. Fantastic. Amazing. Everything that she was doing 18 months ago, AI can do for me now. Does that mean I fire her? No. It meant I gave her a raise and I elevated her expectations. Yeah. And so now, instead of what I would call like level 3 admin work, she's doing level 2, like client facing problem solving for me that AI can't do for me. And so every time something new comes out in technology, it shouldn't squash and take over. It should go under and elevate. As technology rises, it should elevate human creativity, and it should elevate what your company actually can produce. It's like Blake was saying, you can map it out and you can circle the things and you can go, but what if we had something that did that for us? And it would cut down on cost, and then we can put our own human ingenuity and thought and problem solving and perspective into the higher level things. I've been looking at it in my business, Blake, as an elevation from a mid-level manager to a C-suite person, right? Everything that I used to spend my time doing, I've learned to delegate. And I talk to all my clients about this all the time. We use the focus funnel every day. Everything that you do, you should be looking at it and going, can I automate, eliminate, delegate, or procrastinate this? And yes, you can procrastinate things. So if you can automate it. And guess what? There's a lot more that you can automate now. And that doesn't mean that you get to go off and sit on a beach and drink cocktails. It means that your influence and your strategy capacity just got so much bigger because you're not having to do the things that can be automated or eliminated or delegated. We can delegate to AI now, right? And so I would just encourage you to do that. And last thing I want to leave you with, and I'll go to you for final thoughts, Blake, is that good leaders, they lead the way in learning. And we are in an age of change, which we're going to talk about in our next episode. But when change is inevitable, we have to educate ourselves. And so what are you doing, leader, to carve out time on your calendar to understand how your company can best harness this new technology? What are you doing? Let me give you an example. I host my other business. We serve creative businesses. I host 1 hour on Zoom every month where I have about 20 different business owners that come on there, and all we talk about for an hour, we don't complain about AI. Because these are creative business owners. These are people that, like, everyone says AI is taking over all the creative jobs. They're not. The 20 creative business owners are on that call, and we're all talking about how we've been able to harness AI for our business. And people get ideas and they go, oh, that I'm not going to take that thing because it's more for your business, but that unlocked something in me that says, oh, I can use that over here. It's 1 hour a month. And everybody leaves with going like, yep, now I know more about AI than I did an hour ago. So it might be that. It might be locking yourself in a room for an hour and having conversations with Claude or Chad or whoever. Like, it doesn't matter. But set aside that time. Because if you don't, your people are, and if they start to realize that they know, they've kind of written their own narrative about what it's going to be in your company without you leading that way, that could really be a culture problem for you long term.
Yeah. The one push I would have for just any leader in this conversation period. AI stands for artificial intelligence. Okay. Not actual intelligence, artificial intelligence. My biggest fear, and by the way, I have an organization that literally does AI tools and all these things. Okay. So that's like, I'm in this world, but I'm also terrified of this world. And the terrified part is not that it's going to get it put in robots and robots are going to take over. I don't think that's off the table, but I'm not saying that's what's happening here. My biggest fear is that we're going to listen to the problems that it identifies and not think about problems critically. And the thing I would say here is, in fact, you could toss a ton of data into a LLM right now, like Claude or ChatGPT or something like that. You could toss a ton of data in there and it'll be like, this is your number 1 problem. This is your number 2 problem. And this is your number 3 problem. And you'll be like, cool. So those are my problems. But those might not actually be your problems because it only took the variables you gave it. And also it probably ran out of energy at a certain point and grabbed whatever problem it saw. And then it'll start harping on that problem and intensifying what it believes about that problem and why you should be paying attention to that problem. Oftentimes what I see as we're doing builds, AI builds and like process AI builds and other tools, what I see happen is we start harping on one thing too much and actually takes away from the heart intent of what that tool was for. You've got to be so careful on this. And I know I'm like, it seems like I did not know what this podcast was about. It's not, but I'm telling you, as a leader, you need to be the critical thinker. Okay. Use this as a tool. But if the tool says the sky is yellow, maybe you shouldn't believe it. Like maybe you should think a little critically to see, no, I don't think it is yellow. Maybe I need to tell this now it's missing information and I need to give it the right information. Yeah. Especially in the financial spectrum. I would highly say I love the financial analysis that AI will do. Be critical. Be super critical. Because if you don't and you create all these things and they go solve the wrong problems, your team's not going to trust you. So that would be the last thing I say on the topic.
I love it. Well, next episode, Blake, we're going to be back. It's going to be kind of like an adjacent conversation to this, but we're going to back up and go a little bit more macro and talk about how to build a culture of change when change never stops, right? The world is constantly changing. Our businesses are constantly changing. Our business model is constantly changing. Our ideal client profile is constantly evolving. So how do we build that? How do we ingrain that culture of change and in our workplace when we know that it never stops around us? So we'll be back with you next time to talk to you about that on the Culture Based Podcast. Check out theculturebase.com for more info on how we can help your company. We'll talk to you then on the Culture Based Podcast. Have a great week.